comes to us courtesy of Digiday. And this is Time appoints its first chief events officer as publishers double down on events in 2024. This was really fascinating to me. The article opens up by saying Time today has announced the newly created role of chief events officer in a move that's emblematic of the media industry's fervor toward events revenue heading into 2024. Dan McSai, Times executive editor and VP of events, was promoted to the C-suite after the media company experienced a 70% year-over-year increase in U.S. events revenue in 2023 and a 14% increase year-over-year in international events revenue, according to Time CEO Jessica Sibley. I imagine that meeting went, hey, Jessica, who's the one who brought you 70% year-over-year growth? Hey, who's that? Maybe you want to give me a promotion, or maybe I go somewhere else. Dan says
it starts. Yeah, it starts with a D.
Yeah.
A.
Yeah.
N. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna slide into your DMs here and just say, hey, who's the one who brought you that?
Dan would not do that. Dan would,
no.
Yeah.
All right.
No, Dan would come in with a 7 and a 0. And like,
yeah.
Yay, 70.
Just a t-shirt. Just a big t-shirt that says 70%. Anyway, that's an impressive number. Time hosted 27 events in 2023, up from 10. So almost tripled the number of events in 2022. And next year, there are currently 33 events scheduled, including a new one tied to the soon-to-be launched Time Health franchise. The events team under McSai grew substantially as well, starting with 5 employees at the top of the year and ending 23 with 13, with roles ranging from design, sales, customer success, programming, and audience development. I mean, the article goes on, by the way, to just talk a little bit more about how much of a banner year it's going to be for events. And by the way, we're seeing B2B do this as well. Salesforce, for example, doubling down on events and customer enablement events this year. We're seeing other B2B technologies do this. The number of companies that we're seeing doubling down on physical and digital events it's owned media. It's the new, like I said in my prediction, it is the new owned media favorite thing.
You talk about events. I talked in the predictions. I talked about print. I think if it comes to digital's very crowdy. Crowdy. It's crowdy. It's crowdy. That's the title of this podcast. Digital is crowdy. Is that Krauty or is it crowd E?
I don't know.
It could be. I just broke Robert because I can't speak this morning. No, seriously, it's hard to break through. It's hard to build that audience. So what are you going to do? I mean, in this case, in this article with Time, and they talk about Bloomberg as well, they have these amazing media brands and they're able to take them out and put together in-person experiences together. Salesforce, HubSpot, on and on, same thing. There's no moat in digital. I mean, it's like, oh, something hits on TikTok or something hits on YouTube and then it goes back down. It's like, it's very hard to have any kind of consistent growth and audience building. It's like, well, what can we do to really get close to our customers and to differentiate? And I think in-person events and print you have to, if you are a responsible VP of marketing today, you have to be looking at those two as this is what we're going to focus on. Two of the 5 things we're going to focus on are in-person events and well, I think print as well.
And we can again take a lesson from what we're seeing in the media world, right? Because what we've seen in the streaming networks, especially in the streaming networks, but maybe even more pronounced or more enhanced, if you will, in broadcast media, the focus on events as a means of getting new audience, right? So you have to kind of turn everything into an event in order to get to pierce through the noise. In other words, create scarcity with this thing, whatever it is. So Amazon, for example, with its, is having tremendous success with the NFL, with its Thursday night football. And others are, we can see Netflix moving in this direction with event-oriented television. We can see Disney, we can see all the streaming networks sort of moving into how do we actually create event-oriented programming. as a means of gathering audience so that they can discover all the other things that we have, to offer in terms of just on demand. And that creating that scarcity is what events do so brilliantly. Whether it's, again, whether you're creating a webinar series or whether you're, it's if you didn't go, you missed it. And it creates that FOMO. It creates that I want to be part of something. It creates the social aspect of it. And it is the way when we're just awash in content to create some level of exclusivity to your audience.
Well, and if you look at, I mean, this is sort of the dirty little secret for events, and you and I know this because we've been doing it forever, but most people go to events for networking.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll say the speaker lineup and the education is second or third, but number one is almost always networking. You're not going to get the quality networking online. I don't care if you're in any of these membership groups. It just doesn't happen like an in-person occurrence.
Yeah.
And when we're all so connected online, but we don't have those deep connections, there's something missing.
That's right.
Somebody has to fill that. So if you're in an industry that doesn't have that event, well, you have the opportunity to be that event, to put on that event, to do something.
And by the way, that applies not just to attendees of the event. It also applies to your roster of speakers.
The talent. Yeah.
Yeah. When you have an event, and I actually validated this in talking with I'm talking with a new client, and they were talking about this event that they run where it's very high level people, right, in politics and business. And, it's basically, think of it like a Davos, but it's not a Davos. But think of it like that, where there's, very high level people. Those people don't go to the event for the content, right? So think of like a TED conference, right?
Yeah.
Where all the speakers show up and do stuff. They're not going, those high level people aren't going to that event because they get the content. The content's a side, a side hustle, basically. The reason they go is to be able to go back when they go back home and say, I was at the event and sitting next to me was XYZ, or sitting next to me was such and such. And I got to meet them and sit with them and actually, and so it raises their elevation in their business, because they get to tell their CEO or they get to tell their CMO, oh yeah, I got to sit next to the VP of marketing of so-and-so, or I got to sit next to the CMO of something else and got to chat and we got to talking about things. And that networking and partnerships and all the things are really the true, that's the value of a South by Southwest for sure, something like that. But it's that focusing in on that community too.
Oh, I remember early days South by Southwest. And I think when I went was 2008, and they have the opportunity to meet 25 people there that I've always wanted to meet. And like half of those people I'm still friends with today.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
The value in that event is priceless.